for being here today. We are going to chat about motherhood and faith in these little years. So would you guys each introduce yourselves first?
I'm Elena. I have 2 kids, a 4-year-old son and a 16-month-old son.
I am Leslie, and I have one son named Wilson. He's 15 months old.
Oh.
I'm Haley, and I have 3 kids, 4th on the way. Silas, who's 5, Walter, who's 3, and Nora, who's 19 months.
Aww.
So this little guy is due in December.
So all of you in different stages of these little years, which is intense. How would you say that these early years of motherhood have impacted your view of self, your view of God?
I can start it off. I've been thinking about this. When you first texted me, I was like, I feel very inadequate. My initial response was to want to say no, just because I feel like this is a huge area of growth, but it always will be. But something I feel like, as I've been thinking about the questions, the Lord has been very gracious in showing me, because I am a number. I like to numb, and motherhood is a really good excuse to do that. Like, I worked, I did this, and I just want to sit on the couch and numb. And so I don't like to really process and think. So this has been a really good chance for me to do that. And I think I can kind of vacillate between self-justification and self-condemnation, and I think my knee-jerk is justification, but then when I think about it, I think I can feel a lot of shame about things, just about feeling like I keep doing the same sin over and over, or I keep doing the same thing. And the Lord just showed me through Wilson, when Wilson's older and he does the wrong thing 194 times, if he does the right thing or does what I know is good for his soul on the 195th time, I'm going to be so excited and pumped for him, and not condemning him for the 194 times he didn't do it. And I just had the realization, if I feel that way about my son, how the Lord views me that way, and I can do something or ignore him constantly, but the time I don't, I read the Bible, or I read a book, or I have a deep conversation with my husband rather than numbing. He is so excited, and it's not as shameful, why didn't you do this before? So I feel value of self, it's just really helped me not try to not feel that initial shame when I don't do what I'm supposed to be doing, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah. And mine was similar to along that line of I feel like the more I parented, I tended to want to see results right away and character change right away, or behavior change. And I actually read Parenting, the book Parenting, and just talking about how the way I parent is such, or basically parenting is such a example of the gospel, and just the way that the Lord, even this morning in the session, grace upon grace. And I think of myself, and it comes out in parenting, where I know I keep messing up the same thing over and over when I lose my cool or handling something the wrong way, and feeling, like Leslie was saying, that shame. And the Lord is just giving me grace upon grace. And then it's so weird to see it in my child, where I'm like, oh, I need to give you grace upon grace as well. So it's this thing happening at the same time, where I realize my need for grace so much more, and taking claim of the grace that's already been given to me. But then also, okay, how does that shift the way I put expectations on my child, or I treat him in parenting, when the Lord has given me so much grace, now bestowing that upon my child, and showing them the gospel through how I do that.
Yeah. Parenting out of his parenting device.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts, Haley?
Yeah, I would say for me, I think, there's kind of a twofold answer. I think the first one for me was so I kind of the grieving aspect of it, which sounds weird, but I remember this one particular moment where my kid was crying about something that just completely wrecked him, and I knew exactly that it was gonna be okay and that everything was fine. He was safe and loved and all these things, but he didn't necessarily know that in the moment. And so, and even though I knew all these things, like my heart was still broken with him. And like, that's something that I like an aspect of God that I feel like I didn't understand until I had kids. Because it was like, oh, this is how, because I used to think when something bad would happen, it was like, God, you knew about this, like, and you know it's going to be okay. Like, when he would talk about how he, like, he'll comfort us and he grieves with us kind of thing. And I didn't get that until I had my kid. And it was like, I felt like he was hurting, so I was hurting. And that was like a kind of a crazy concept for me. Like, of just like, oh, like I can know it's going to be okay. And I can even know even what the future's going to be because I know how the day's going to play out. And like it's still like grieving with him was like, oh my gosh, is this how God treats, like, is this how he deals with us? Because he's outside of time. And, you know, so that was one of the ways. And then I think, I forgot the other one. There was another one, and it was good.
If you think about it,
yeah.
Just jump in. So when we're caring for little people, there's a lot of just mundane work that is involved. How has that shaped your faith, being so much in that mundane day to day?
It's tough. It's really, really tough. And I feel like I didn't struggle with it as much with foster because I was working more. And so I had a change of pace more often, and I've really, really been struggling with that recently of like, I feel like my entire day is preparing food, getting out dishes, putting away dishes, diapers on a loop, just like over and over and over and over again. And I really have a hard time finding value in that or seeing the value in that. And something that I cannot remember. I know I read this in like a book about mothering somewhere, but basically it said in those moments when you are doing those things that just feel like, why am I doing this? What is this? You know, I'm doing this again. No one sees me. The reality of God sees me right now. What I'm doing, changing this diaper again, God sees me. And putting another meal on the table, God sees me, you know? And that's just like really shifted it for me, and I say that to myself a lot of times in those mundane tasks. And you know, even the way that God valued children, you know, had them come to him, and seeing that he sees value in that work that we're doing with these little children, just reminding myself of that.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I would agree with all of that. Like, it really is, it does feel like, I feel like I've learned to like pray continuously throughout the day in the moments of like, I feel like I want to blow my lid at my kid right now, and I really don't want to do that, but I don't have any patience left within me.
And I just stepped on more goldfish.
And yes, and it's like just when you're like praying that prayer, you step on a Lego, and it's like it's all gone. So yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Of like the seeing value in the day-to-day stuff. That is really hard for me as well, especially when it gets undone.
Yeah.
Almost immediately.
Right.
It can. I think that's a really powerful like way to look at it. Is like that he sees me, because that's really helpful.
Yeah, I think working. So I work 4 days. So I think I resonate with you. Is like when you had foster, you didn't feel it as much, just because I am working most days. So I don't really feel. My mundane, though, is the getting home, the cleaning from stuff from daycare, the prepping for daycare, the getting ready for bed, the bath time, and then it's like 8 p.m. and it's like, okay, time to get ready to go to bed. So it's, even though I don't feel the mundaneness throughout my work day, it is a loop, but a different way. And in this book that I started, she brought up a very eye-opening point where she was like, when we're suffering, like a big scale suffering, like a loved one is not doing well, or someone, you know, anything like that, like we're crying out to God to like help us. But she was saying in the day-to-day frustrations, we feel justified in our annoyance, and we don't do as often as we should. We don't do those calling out for help because it's like, oh, I just stepped on another Lego. I'm so justified in getting, triggered right now or whatever it is. And I was like, gosh, that's so true. And I think I really bend towards that. Like, I feel justified in my frustration or my anger or whatever it is. And I think it's just like, and with 15 months, it's like he's starting to understand but doesn't understand yet. And so we've talked about this a lot, trying to incorporate Christ and the gospel when they don't understand yet, but still trying to establish rhythms so that it's natural when they do. I think we're kind of in that phase. And a good friend was saying, like, because she does like a homeschool hybrid, and she was saying, the days that she just like loses it, she uses that as the time to say, like, I am going to lose my cool, I am going to get dysregulated, but like God never does. And she uses that as like a way to point her kids to him. And I'm just like, okay, store in my brain for a year from now, like in those moments of just using it as like a way to like show our weakness, but then like honestly showing that God, in all the ways that we are going to fail our children, even though we don't want to, like God will not. And so I'm trying to kind of get in that mindset even now with him being so little. But yeah, it's hard, just the everydayness of, it's tricky, I feel like, for most people. And if someone has it figured out, let us know.
Oh, what have been some of the biggest joys in this season for you guys?
Haley, start us off. It's your turn.
Oh, man. Well, I feel like, it's hard to describe in that, like, the biggest joys are just getting to, like, have these little humans that, like, look to you for everything. And like, they're just, I don't know. I would say specifically just, like, the incredibly humbling and, like, but also hilarious and, like, chaotic and messy, I don't know, constantness that is parenting. Like, it's really, like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And that's the weirdest, like, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And yet, like, I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I wouldn't, I don't know. I think, I also think specifically my kids, like, it's kind of, I feel like I can think of that moment sometimes when I feel so, like, just at the end of my rope, and I'm like all spent. I have nothing left. And this is a little Friends quote for you, but when Phoebe's brother is talking about giving her one of his triplets, and he kind of walks through each one, and he's talking about, like, why he can't give that one up because of something that's just awesome about them, and, like, just even the joys he talks about each one of his kids. Very non-biblical reference at all, but it's like, I can so relate to that. Yeah. Like, I look at each one of my kids and I just, like, delight in who they are, and, like, there's just nothing, I don't know, like, I really, like, I can genuinely tell, like, there's nothing that they can do that makes me love them less. And so I just, like, I don't know, it's just awesome. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one of the joys of motherhood has been just seeing their personalities emerge. I just get so excited, and I feel like with Jude, it's happening now, about 1.5. A little, after he turned 1, especially, I'm just like seeing these little personality traits come out. I think he's gonna be like class clown vibes, like just so silly, and then Foster just tender-hearted, just wild boy. Just, I don't know, when I see those little personalities and remember, oh, you are like your own little human, and I get to watch you turn into a human, and you're like us, but you're also your own person. It's just awesome to watch.
And God gave him to you to watch unfold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mine's exactly the same for both of their answers. I was thinking delight came to mind. Like, I was trying to pick, certain examples and I couldn't. It's just like as a whole, it's just delighting in him. And then, he started walking like a month ago, and like seeing him walk around, I'm like, you're like a whole person.
Yeah.
It's like something about them walking, you're like, what? And it's just, his personality too is slowly but surely starting to come out too. And I think just seeing him learn things too, like being a speech therapist, like seeing natural development just happen and being like, oh my gosh, like it just is fascinating to me to be able to kind of, I don't know, view my work in that way, which has been really cool to be able to experience that. So it's just, it's the best.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm going to steal a quote from you one time. One time, Elaine and I were voice memoing just about motherhood. And we were saying how, like, this is kind of off topic, but it's crazy how children can make your family, she said this, not me, how children can make your family feel so whole, but also makes it so hard at the same time. And that's exactly true. It's like, it's so joyful, but then there are sometimes just with family dynamics shifting and just different things where it's like, oh wow, I wasn't anticipating this speed bump or whatever. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like like you just smile. It's like it's the best. Like it's so, all of the figuring out everything is just worth it because it's great.
Yeah. I have to say, I love watching each of you delight in your children. And as a mom of 4 older kids, I just am constantly coming back to, that's the biggest gift we can give our kids, is delighting in them. So I just really respect and admire the way you guys are doing that. So thanks for chatting today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.